Hello, I'm Rossi. Last night, my wife and I, Bobby, had the great opportunity to go to Quail Ridge bookstore here in Raleigh, North Carolina, to hear Daniel Pink talk about his new book called To Sell is Human. It was almost serendipitous how it happened. My wife and granddaughter have written a book, and we had taken it along with my book, Dog Eat Dog and Vice Versa, to Quail Ridge yesterday morning to see if we could get them to put it on their shelf. As soon as we walked in the door is a copy of Daniel Pink's new book, and I've been excited to read it. I've been looking forward to it, as a matter of fact. When I saw it, I stopped. I thought, okay, I'm going to buy that book because I'm not going to wait till it comes out in ebooks. And lo and behold, was a little sign that said this evening, yesterday evening, Daniel himself would be there and talk about his book. Well, we got there 45 minutes early to get a good seat. Unbelievable, some of the people we met there. It was very exciting. However, his book, he is a superb presenter. Well, he was Al Gore's speechwriter, and he's highly educated. He's written lots of books, including Drive. But his mannerism for presenting was excellent. It was very comfortable. It was a cold, rainy, wet night, and the place was packed. He immediately warmed up the crowd and then said, I'd like to talk about my book. I want to tell you about the architecture of my book. And the way he explained it was excellent. How he wrote the book with, here's what I know or what I have found. Here's how I found it. The validation, the background. And here's what the information can do to help you. So it's crafted very, very well. He told stories, he warmed the crowd, but here's what caught me, and the reason why I've already read half the book since last night. He talks about, as I do, the power of non-selling. How everybody today is a salesperson. And isn't that true? Teachers, doctors, dentists, lawyers, everyone's a salesperson, but nobody wants to be a salesperson. Remember the stories I tell about that in Dog Eat Dog and Vice Versa. The old knocking on the door, shh, it's a salesman. Everyone is a salesman. And he said they did a survey, and 1,700 people, and they said, what's the first words that come to your mind when sales is mentioned? And they were words like slick, smarmy, manipulative. They were all, he said 13 words came up most often. I believe he said 9 of them were negative. Well, most of us feel negative about sales and salesmen. As I like to quote myself, nobody wants to be sold, but everybody buys. He then talked about how once upon a time, what salespeople sold and why they were so smarmy is because they had all the power, they had all the information. Well, now they don't. Everybody has all the information. He brings up the point, if you're going to buy a new Toyota Corona, or you go to the dealership, do they have all the information? Probably, but you most likely have more because you've researched it on the internet. You've even been on the Toyota chat line and you're talking to other Toyota people. I mean, the world is so wonderfully communicated and connected today that everyone talks about everything. So you go in there armed to the hilt. That salesman doesn't have to sell you. You already know there's a problem with the door lock that 15 people have that's not big enough for a recall, but it ought to be worth an extra $200. You already know the manufacturer's suggested retail price, and you also know the actual dealer cost because your Aunt Tilda in Oklahoma has that, which used to be locked up in a safe. He's so right, and I believe it so strongly, in the power of non-selling. That's what I'm talking about. We don't need to sell anymore. But then he really solved some good stuff for me. Remember Glenn Ross, ABC, Always Be Closing? I've always hated that. Oh, I hated that movie. Just hated the movie. He reframed it, ABC. He calls it attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. Masterful. His attunement I call empathy, and he said it's even more than empathy. I agree. I call it stepping into somebody's moccasins. You know, in order to do that, you must first take off your own. And then he spoke on buoyancy is your ability to float through it, to bounce back. And he uses the example of a full of brush salesman. Read the book just for that. It's wonderful. Then the last is clarity. And that is what really hit me hard. In my presentations where I talk about getting the consumer involved, you got to keep the consumer involved, he uses the word pitch, where, you know, what I find a little tacky. I don't like pitch. I don't like sales techniques. I don't like dialogue. I don't like wouldn't you, couldn't you, should you, don't you agree. I don't like manipulative closing, and neither do the rest of us. But he said the pitch is actually the invitation. What are you doing to bring people into you? How do you invite them in so that you can clarify whether what you have satisfies something that they need? If it doesn't, fine, walk on down the street. Oh, that just cleared it all up for me. Thank you, Daniel. It's a masterful book. Hope you sell billions of them. Well, you're already on the top 10 hard-selling books in New York Times. Congratulations.